Okay, so you should see the City Nature Challenge thing there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, just to repeat basically the end of that, I guess the theme of this talk is the two websites that help me organize photos and get them to the few people that would like to see them. There's lots of good pictures out there. So if anybody really finds something meaningful, it's probably because of a very specific nature of something like what species an animal is, or that their kids are in a high school sports event. I'm
Oh,
not,
may I ask one thing? Everybody mute yourselves, please.
so
Okay, go
iNaturalist is
ahead.
this iNaturalist is a website that organizes tons of actually about 250 million observations that people have made worldwide. If I click on this, I can just see mine. It tells me how many species I've seen, and this is the area that I've covered, and these are my recent observations and things. And you can search by species, and actually you can search by any taxa. Um, and what we just did was the City Nature Challenge. Just happened to be the last 4 days, and I did organize a competition for Clear Lake, or for Lake County. Got 36 people to make 1,079 observations, and the pictures had to be taken on the last 4 days, but you do have several more days to submit them, and that number is going to go up, especially mine, because I haven't gotten around to editing all the pictures I took Sunday and Monday yet. Um, this is one observation I had that just seems like an ordinary little thing, but it turns out, according to a bunch of people who are pretty expert, that I only identified it as fly. That's my identification there, but people chimed in and had a long discussion. Most of these people are PhDs in entomology, I think, and they decided it was Cremophania nearctica, and it's the only observation of that species on iNaturalist. I just read a website about this species, says it was seen in the high forests of New Mexico. This one I saw up near Yuba Pass.
Wow.
So, that's just an example of how this thing could be so useful to get you in touch with people who really know what they're talking about and help you know what you're seeing. And then sometimes people want to make use of your stuff. Like, this is mostly photo requests from people, field guide to cicadas, and for scientific articles and things. I've gotten a few of those.
Wow.
I think here's our little, oh, that's the observation. That's the observation that this person wanted. And I think maybe down at the bottom here, she was nice enough to show me the published article and how it showed up as an example
Oh,
of the
oh,
shape.
that's
Oh,
wonderful.
there we go. That one's mine. So you got a bunch of other people. That one's mine. And that's not the only time that's happened.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful
So that's
format of
that's
the
just
article.
to illustrate that this thing can help photos find their proper homes.
They certainly don't live long on Facebook.
I guess yeah, they don't. Let's see. Nature. 5 years ago, I think I gave a little talk on macro photography because that's what I was most known for. So I could do some of that. I guess one reason I like to do it is because I got a kind of a kick out of seeing things in photos that I didn't see in real life when I first took the photo, because you're looking at things real small and there's a lot of things to notice in there. So that's part of why I do it. I'm going to talk a little bit about ways to do it and how I mostly do it. I pretty much just talked about that already. Yeah, I went to an iNaturalist happy hour. It was great to meet the people who make the project happen, including Kenichi Uda, who did the programming for it in the first place. Well, one reason to do it is that there are a lot of insects. I do like to follow insects. On the world, there's 300 pounds of insect per pound of humans. We want to document the insects because there's a big decline already. We expect there's about 10 quadrillion individual insects alive, which is about 1 billion times as many as there are people. And, if you are interested, say, in elephants or things like that, and you're traveling through Africa, you kind of have to go a long ways to change your environment in a significant way. But when you're in the world of insects, there's a big difference in the ecosystem on one side of a bush and the little patch of grass on the other side of the bush. So if you walk 5 miles, it's sort of like walking all the way across Africa, and you're going to see a lot of different things.
Wow, nice way to put it.
Yeah, so basically I try to find interesting things and do the best technical job I can do of photographing them. The terminology is, say, in a 1-to-1 or a 1 times magnifying lens. That just means that the object will be at its actual size on your sensor. So a worm 36 millimeters long fills a sensor if you have a 1-to-1 macro lens, which is what I usually use. You've got very shallow depths of field, which you want to try to overcome. I almost always use a dual macro flash, which helps me get more light, gets even light, helps me shoot at tight aperture. I usually use f/16. That's another lens for if an insect is flighty, you might want to use a longer focal length lens. Canon calls this 300 millimeter lens a macro lens, even though the magnification on it is about 0.24. So and you can put extension tubes on it. That'll help you get a little closer if you want to. This is an example with my 100 millimeter lens and a Raynox add-on close-up lens. It basically gives you 2.5 times as much magnification. So that's getting close in on some lichen. Yeah, the way I do it, usually it's f/16. Now on my new camera, I can only go to 1/180 without going to high-speed sync. And I tended to maybe knock the ISO down some from that. And I use either autofocus or manual focus, basically depending on how much time I think I have. An ant running across the surface of the ground, I'm going to not have time to autofocus, so I'm going to have to I'm not going to have time to manual focus. I'll have to autofocus, or if I think a fly's about to take off from the leaf, I'll autofocus, but I prefer to manual focus if I have the time. Yeah, usually I focus by moving the camera in and out. Often I set my automatic flash on, I guess, center weighted average with down 1/3 of a stop. The right setting, if I'm in as close as I can get, and if I was at 1/250 and ISO 200, that it's usually about 1/32 or 1/16 of the power of that flash. Okay, usually evaluative metering. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, okay, depth of field is very shallow, so I do shoot at f/16. This is kind of a hand-wavy justification for f/16 is, have you ever wondered what they mean about saying that your focus is good from, say, 3 meters to 5 meters at a particular setting? If you focus at a certain distance, they'll say, okay, everything from 3 meters to 5 meters is in focus. Well, what's the criterion for deciding whether something's in focus? Well, it's basically an 8x10" print with normal eyesight, halt in a normal distance, like 2 feet, that it's perfectly sharp. And that kind of corresponds to a perfectly sharp 1,000 pixel wide image. And that's just about what diffraction hits at f/16. As you go to a tighter and tighter aperture, you get an inevitable blurring caused by diffraction. So if I figure, well, if they figure that's at 1,000 pixels wide is a good criterion for focus being sharp, we'll use the same criterion for diffraction being tolerable. So yeah, I did do this little thing at the UC Botanic Gardens just to see what happens as you change your aperture. So I go, we should be seeing things getting, sharper and that the depth of field is greater. But at f16 and
Wow.
then f22, you're getting a little bit of diffraction. And then I did this is just a crop of those pictures so you can see it better. You can see that I got some of the tips of those anthers sharp, but now there's more of them getting sharp at f8 or. But if you look at some of the stuff that was perfectly sharp at f8, now I'm starting to lose it a little bit. And that's because of diffraction. Like this one here. Let's see if I go back at f11, it's sharp at f22, get more depth of field, but you got more diffraction. That's what we were just looking at. Okay, well, I have gotten into focus stacking a little bit. And supposedly there's anti-diffraction sharpening filters, which I don't use. Talked about that kind of already. And yeah, this is the dual flash that I prefer to the ring flash that I used to have. It's nice to get the light a little bit further from the lens because a lot of things send light back in the same direction it came from. So I think the glare is a little worse, and the red eye that you get in spiders, which is actually more like white eye, it's lower if you get the light source a little further away from the lens. That's the ring flash. Both of these things you can take off, and sometimes I like to move it around. Oh no, that's the dual flash. I like to move it around. You can take these things apart and put one in front of your subject and maybe one a little bit behind it. It helps to have three hands. Yeah, and then you could use a diffuser. This is probably gives you better quality pictures, but it'll scare the insects away and probably get in the way of branches that you're trying to reach through. That's one with the diffuser. I do think the light quality is really nice there.
It's beautiful.
It doesn't have the sharp glare that I do usually get with my ring flash.
Hmm.
I'm not going to bother with that. I do some time lapses, but it's tough to do because if you're not there, things are probably going to get out of focus. Okay, there's some. Yeah, I haven't looked at these in a while. I do look at Insect Sciences Museum of California. There's some other Facebook pages that I thought were good when I looked at them.
You should see the new insectarium at New York at the Academy of
Ah,
Natural History. It's spectacular.
the Essex Museum has 500,000 samples. Yeah, that's the Raynox, just shooting right through the little Raynox thing. That's what that is. You can stick it on the end of your macro lens and get another factor of 2.5 of magnification. So usually I just have that dual flash on my camera, and I don't worry much about the natural light. I just overpower it without even thinking about it. But of course, there's times when you really like to let the light shine through. So in that case, I might turn the flash off or turn it down relative to the natural light. Like this guy.
Wow.
These guys are out right now. I'm seeing them all over the place. They are some kind of a moth larva, a tiger moth, I think, and they dangle out of oak trees, particularly. And he's dangling by a thread that maybe you can't see. And they climb up it often. I think maybe they come down looking for some environment. If they don't like it, they climb back up and they ball up their silk as they go up. And there's another one where I kind of let some light shine through there. Yeah, those are all lenses I've got. A 1 times, meaning it's a 1-to-1 macro. I do have this 65 millimeter totally manual focus lens, which goes up to a magnification of 5. I will show, I think, a picture or two of that from that. And then I've got this Bizarro lens. It's a probe lens. It's like got a long tube and you can stick it in water. Hardly ever use it. That's the 65 millimeter 1-to-5 magnification lens. It can either, you can turn this and it affects how much magnification you get. And that is the one that I used to use all the time, but I now bought the Canon RF version of it. And I guess that's kind of the end of that segment. So, see, okay, I can get rid of that. Okay, so I did mention focus stacking, so let me show some of that. I don't really do it all that often. I see this guy on the Facebook who says he does handheld focus stacks all the time and gets great pictures. I wouldn't say mine are quite that great.
Spectacular.
Sometimes I get it because I have an opportunity because something isn't moving, and either I happen to have some support with me, which I don't really usually, or I can just put the camera on the ground and maybe prop it up with my keys or another lens or something. So this guy was basically on the ground on a Thule. He's called a little caddisfly, and it was a misty morning, so he did have a lot of water bubbles on him. So
Beautiful.
that's a focus stack.
And I love how you see the image of the landscape, especially in the large
Yeah, you're
rock.
mostly seeing his hairs, but yeah, this one
Yeah,
definitely.
that
I'm
one you can
upside
see the
down in
ground
my
plane.
backyard. This was right on my beach here.
Wow.
Yeah, that's called a bird's nest fungus, and there's not a lot of depth to it, but it definitely got it sharper. There's a little bit of wider view of the same thing. These guys just haven't matured yet, so they develop like this and they open up, and then mostly from raindrops splashing these things out, they get scattered.
Oh, wonderful.
I also bought a microscope, which I actually haven't used much yet. And I did use focus stacking in that because the depth of field is really narrow. This is a bird feather.
Is it a
And
hummingbird or something iridescent?
I don't know what kind of feather it was. It didn't particularly seem iridescent.
Okay.
And, close up of a flower. Okay, this one I just did a few days ago.
Wow.
He was really cooperative. He was breathing. So this thing is pumping in and out. So that's kind of blurred out. And like this is a crop from this picture. You can see his back end isn't in focus.
Uh-huh.
You have to set your starting focus point, and then my Canon camera will automatically take a series of photos going back. And you have to set the distance between the focuses, whether it's making minor or major adjustments of focus, or you can set how many you want. And sometimes I have to experiment a little bit, or I don't get enough, but usually I get too many. And actually, I did get enough in this case, but he moved. So I got focused down to here, which took maybe 3 seconds, and then he moved. So I had to just stop it there. And that's a focus stack of this guy who was very cooperative. And I believe I don't know how well video is going to come through, but I got a few videos here. I thought that's kind of cool
Oh, yeah.
watching.
The focus
That's
stack.
just watching my focus stack.
That's amazing. How many different images were in that one?
I took 200, but I think I didn't use them all for this. I would guess I used maybe a little over 100 of them.
Very cool.
And I actually thought I had more. I guess Yeah, I've got more of those, but we won't go into that. Okay. I took an insect class. I showed some of these pictures a couple of years ago. This was from Jim Haffernick at the San Francisco State University field station at Yuba Pass. So I just picked out my 20 best insect shots from there, or I should say arthropod shots probably. Robber fly is a pretty big family. This is a robber fly. This is a cicada that he has captured.
That guy's really good.
Yeah.
A bee fly. These guys are flies. People might
No,
mistake them for
Ed,
bees.
what is that between his eyes? Is that another small insect, or is that part of him?
There's an antenna here. This thing right here,
Oh, yes, antenna.
I think
Yeah,
this is
that
the
and
antenna.
look.
Uh,
Okay.
it's just part of him, I think, but I don't know exactly what.
Okay. It's interesting that it seems to be in front of his eye.
Yeah, this apparently this is a root borer moth. There's another thing called a strawberry moth that looks a lot like it. Common white-tailed and the Odonata class
With amazing transparencies in the
order.
wings.
Odonata order, I should say. Yeah. It's a field crescent. Flame skimmer.
Wow.
All I could tell you about the ant is it's in the Formica genus. It's a Formica mochi, somebody said. And he's got a beetle that he's dragging off.
Is the beetle still alive or had he?
I think that's dead. It looked like it was dead to me.
Yeah.
He might have found it dead, probably.
Yeah.
This is probably a Koch's wolf spider. Funny thing is that the common name for the genus of the Koch's wolf spider is fox spider. but anyway, it's in the fox spider genus, and I think it's a Koch's wolf spider. And you can see there's babies here.
Yeah. Wow.
This is a spider that carries egg sacs until the eggs hatch, and then carries the babies. So look a little closer at those babies.
Jeez. Amazing. So these are all focus stacked.
No, none of these are
No.
focus stacked.
No. Oh, okay.
None of these from this class are focus stacked. It's just probably all of them are at F16.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's a beautiful.
Now my cheat, I named the files, the name of them, and it truncated it. But a golden buprescent beetle, borer beetle. It's a borer. I found it under bark. I didn't really have to pull the bark off. He was in there, and then I saw him, and then he fell to the ground. It's very colorful.
It sure is. It's gorgeous iridescence.
When I started doing this stuff, I didn't know this was a lady beetle larva. Thought it looked so different from a lady beetle that didn't
Yeah.
realize it. But yeah, it's just a lady beetle larva. And these are, I think they're called lace bugs.
Ah, yes.
So presumably she was munching on them. Some mayfly larvae. We went down to the flat area east of the Sierra, around Sierraville, and dipped some stuff out of a creek. This is still the class. Yeah, I don't really know what that is. I have seen pupa in things like this. I think they sometimes use the spines that they had as a larva to protect their own pupa.
Striking. I'd call it a cactus egg.
Yeah, called a red femered milkweed borer. Yeah, I have a whole insect porn directory here. That's another robber fly. with a little bit of prey there. Can't really tell what it is. Maybe a lacewing. Maybe it could be a lacewing.
Hmm.
Did we see that already? Saw something like it.
Yes,
Cicada
that was
with
your
a,
first image.
okay. How did I do? Um, okay. There's this, these antennae belong to the prey. So this is another robber fly with prey.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. It's actually kind of a wasp. Yeah, I did get a whole bunch of motion blur on this one. So actually, sometimes I go to high speed sync, so you don't, or maybe I screwed up and I didn't have my shutter as fast as I could have. But you can, you can shoot with high speed sync so that it can put your shutter faster than the X sync speed. And I was too slow with that. Okay, striped meadowhawk, and these guys are some kind of insect that's just hitching a ride. They're not going to damage the host. They're just going to get a ride and leave because they
That
like
wing,
to go to they want to go to the same kind of environment. They want to go someplace like waterside. So these guys know that this thing's going to want to go there, so they get the ride. What was that?
the wings are amazingly transparent. You can barely see them.
Yeah,
It's striking.
some kind of a tent caterpillar. Western winged hoverfly. Western black carpenter ant. These guys have a I kind of can't think of, these guys have the mutual beneficial relationship with aphids. They're not going to eat the aphids. They're going to protect the aphids. They're going to maybe move the aphids to nice, juicy parts of leaves and things. And in return, they're going to get secretions that are sweet.
It's their excretions, isn't it? I mean, it's their
Yeah,
poop,
yeah, I
basically,
guess it
right?
is their food. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. These are actually pictures I took quite a while ago, but I did see that I was shooting at f/16 even back then. Praying mantis is one of my favorites because you get this eerie feeling that they are more in tune with you because they follow you with their heads. They turn their heads and look at you, react to you.
Hmm.
Somewhere I have video, but I didn't find it. Um, well, let's see. So maybe I'll switch over to birds now. Basically, I guess the one thing in the last couple of years I focused on the most is birds on Clear Lake because I get this kayak and I go out there. Some birds I see so often, I made a separate directory for them. See a lot of bald eagles. I put this together from the flight of one of them. This was on the island out here called Rattlesnake Island. There's five bald eagles in this picture. Two adults. And these guys are probably between 2 and 3 years old, and this one's maybe between 3 and 4 years old. I actually saw 9 at once, and it's pretty unusual around here.
Yeah, it's more like Alaska.
And there were 2 others, but I couldn't fit in the shot, and there were 2 that flew off. Yeah, most of the time here I'm using 600 mm f4 lens. It's a juvenile bald eagle with fish. Another juvenile bald eagle. Yeah, this one's not quite full adult. Still got some non-white, so it's probably between 3 and 4. I used to submit all the bald eagles I saw to iNaturalist, but now I'm not as rare as I thought they were, or I see them a lot.
Uh-huh.
This was in April, a couple years ago, I think. I guess there's certain times a year when you'll see a pair together, and maybe less so when they have young because somebody, or even have eggs, because somebody has to protect that one while the other goes out fishing. This was off this pier
Wow.
right here by my house. I got lucky. Yeah, I
Wow.
brightened this up quite a bit, but it was right before sunset, and I was just thinking the birds looked pretty good in the evening sun, looking off to the east, and I saw one bird that looked like it was a bald eagle, so I started tracking it, and he came down and caught a fish right in front of me.
Wow. Wow. Lucky.
Yeah, I brightened it up a bit, so this was pretty dark in the original.
So I presume you saw him shift his grip as well to hold the fish with two
I
talons.
do have a whole sequence of this. I don't have it handy though. As far as I remember, he did turn and fly away he turned to the right and left from there. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. It's thanks to birds catching fish that I got some of my iNaturalist fish observations, although they're very cropped.
Huh.
And I don't even know my fish very well, but people tell me that's a black crappie, I think.
Uh-huh.
Probably this one is some kind of crappie too. I forget what that is. But I thank the birds for letting me see fish because I don't go fishing. Oh yeah, grebes.
Of
Always
course.
gazillions of grebes. The premier birds maybe of Lake County. They have a part of their ritual is passing weeds to each other. Uh, then you
Oh
get
my.
that's baby with getting a hand off a fish. Two
Oh
babies
boy.
on board.
Chief.
They nest on the lake.
And you could really see his
Oh
webs
yeah,
beautifully there now.
seriously, web feet for diving.
Yeah. Jeez.
Usually about 3 eggs.
How in
And
the world do
so
they
they
keep
they yeah,
how do they keep the eggs warm?
they sit on them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
floating
guess
on the
the
water
water.
cold on the
Yeah.
bottom. It
Well,
works. I got
actually,
some.
the thing is, they do nest through an extremely large fraction of the year. It's kind of unpredictable, and they might nest twice. But really, they could be nesting in April, and they could be nesting in October. But the water temperature for most of that time is really warm near the surface, like
Oh,
over 80.
that may be one reason they go there,
Yeah,
because other lakes. So is Clear Lake
and they
fairly shallow in general?
yes, it's. I don't think anything is over 40 feet.
Okay.
And that cutesy pie phrase I had you read, it's a eutrophic polymictic lacustrine ecosystem. I got that phrase from his kind of, you might say, goofy ecologist in Lake County named Harry Lyons. Um, Eutrophic means it's rich in foods, which is partly because it's warm here, because it's shallow.
Doesn't it more mean that
It'll,
it's sort of rotting a little bit? It's
oh,
decaying.
I didn't think it meant that. Just full of life from the Greek true life.
Okay.
And polymictic lakes, apparently, especially if they're deeper, typically mix the stuff from the bottom to the top once or twice a year as the weather changes, maybe in spring and fall. But if it's shallow and it's windy, it's just sort of constantly mixing, and that's what polymictic is.
Very
So
good.
he put together that phrase just to impress people. He says that it's the world's favorite eutrophic polymictic lacustrine ecosystem. And because it is well known because it is so very eutrophic, which is why people don't like it because it's mucky. But it does lead to a whole big old food web. I think that's an older picture. Yeah, this actually was, I think, the parent, and this is a big sibling, a big offspring on the right, and the parents seem to want to make the sibling beg for it. Make the offspring beg for it. I mean,
Hmm.
And
Beautiful reflection.
they did do a handoff.
Nice.
That was
Wow.
up in Rodman Slough.
Wow.
Yeah, that one is a horned grebe. Just throwing everything else you've seen here is Clark's or Western grebe, which are almost the same and used to be considered the same species. But we do have horned grebe. That's in, I don't know why I showed that picture, but that's in Anderson Marsh where I went and saw some of the grebes. There's a pied-billed grebe. Yeah, they're swimming in the muck. And then
Oh,
the favorite shot is this rushing where they dance across the top of the water.
spectacular.
Probably most likely to see it April, May, but it could be almost any time. Okay.
Wow.
Well, another thing special about Clear Lake, we've got this protected fish known as the hitch. Back around 1900, there were something like 16 endemic fish species in Clear Lake, and now there's two, and that's largely because they introduced sport fish like bass,
Oh,
which have crowded out these guys. But we still got the hitch, which live in Clear Lake, go up the inflowing streams to spawn. There he is, swimming hard upstream.
wow. Beautiful.
And are you shooting this from a boat?
Did you say, am I shooting this from a boat?
Yes.
No, most of the grebes I showed you, if not all of them, were from a boat, but not these actually. This was from, I think these were both from Adobe Creek, which is in Kelseyville. It's one of their main streams that they go up to spawn. And you can just stand by the side of the road at the right time of year, which probably is just kind of past. I didn't really go out looking for them this year. They could still be doing it. So there's some of their eggs. They have to get kind of lucky because often they lay eggs on the side of streams and then the streams level will drop and they dry out. I've seen a lot of them just dry out. Some of the Indian tribes are doing some kind of study. We have an Indian tribe. I'm going to try to get this right. The Indian tribe's called the Habamatolel and live in Upper Lake, and they're working with some fish and wildlife people. I don't really know exactly what they're doing in this picture. I forget. But they fish them out. They measure them. I guess they're injecting some kind of chip or something.
Could be a thermometer too.
Ah,
Something like that.
okay. Okay, and then the other, I guess, favorite bird here is osprey. I really know where there's a fish here. I probably know where 60 osprey nests are right around Clear Lake,
Wow.
and maybe one or two is on something that's not man-made. Not always a bucket like this, but they're on telephone poles and signposts and poles that people put up just for the osprey, but almost never in trees. At least, or maybe they're more hidden and I don't see them. And they do often, this one is about to take off because I scared them, and they will often poop just before they go. And, yeah, they hang out often on trees right at the edge of the water because they're looking for fish. I think this is the post right near, well, I got an osprey nest like 150 feet from here and another one about 700 feet from here and another one about a mile from here. I think this is the close one. This is last year's brood from our most local nest.
Like seeing the tongue on the little one on the left.
Yeah. The hard thing about them is it's very hard to see into their nest because they're up.
Yeah.
We have a nearby nest I'm hoping to be able to look into because there's a cliff next to it. This was on a day that was about 100 degrees last summer, or not, maybe a couple summers ago. So
Wow.
that year they had three, and these two adults are shading them.
Wow.
Got her wings out. this is probably male and this one's female. Females have more of this coloration in the neck.
Uh-huh.
So kind of getting so I can recognize these two guys in our nearest nest. They always come back right about March 7th. They leave, almost all the ospreys leave for the winter, and they almost all come back right around it March 7th. And they may or may not have eggs in there by now. It's probably right about egg laying time. Okay. Well, so those are some of the species you see most in Clear Lake. And now I just have a potpourri of other things I've seen in and around Clear Lake. The pond slider invasive turtle.
Is that a snail on it?
Yes, I think there's like three. There's one here and one here and one here. And he's really enjoying the basking opportunity.
Yeah, he's stretching.
I wonder if it helps get the snails off. Maybe the snails will dry out and want to leave. It's a great egret.
Perfect pose.
Yeah, I believe that is a herring gull with a crappie. Yeah, there's one of our mute swans.
What a beautiful photo. Wow.
So I just learned on the BioBlitz a couple days ago, one of our county supervisors was on that walk, and he said that I asked, why, if this is such a good environment for the mute swan, why did the swans not find it themselves instead of coming in now and being invasive? And he said, well, they're originally European, so they did need human help to get to this continent. Then they started spreading, and he said that somebody in Lakeport bought some for pets and then released them.
Oh,
Now we have official estimates 80 or 100, but I think more. And there was a program a few years ago considering to eradicate them all. And the public did not like it. Okay. Back to some insects. A little tough to get a mating while flying.
wow.
Yeah, this is cliff swallows. You'll see them under almost every bridge. I think this was the bridge in Clear Lake State Park.
Why is his bill glowing like that? Is there something in it? Or...
Okay, so here's the adult bird, and she's sticking her bill down inside the baby bird who has brighter
Yes, got it.
lips.
Yes.
Just sticking food down in there. Yeah, in the winter, these are all pelicans out here. I just used my wide angle lens for this one. We got it, and just enormous feeding activity.
Wow.
But the pelicans are peaking around here in November, January, February, and they're starting to leave, and now I'm pretty sure they're all gone. But there were still some around 3 weeks ago. Evening shot of pelicans.
Beautiful lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous lighting.
Okay.
Oh,
I just thought that was a cute pose. That's on Rattlesnake Island, which I can kayak around. And he had a little
don't forget that otter. Want to see that otter?
Yeah, I just went too far. I'll go towards. Yeah, okay, so he's got a fish. I saw that from my kayak.
Wow.
Yeah, that was an otter on our dock. I probably have a better picture than that. Okay. I just thought, we got all these double-crested cormorants around. I just thought that it looked like these guys were having a conversation. And there, we got in Clear Lake Oaks on the main channel, a couple miles away from here, is a rookery that has hundreds of cormorant nests. Also has quite a few great blue heron nests and some green heron nests. But if you go near that, the smell of the poop that's in the water is really strong, and you can just hear it plopping down. Great blue heron.
Nice pose.
Yeah, here's a great egret with a whole bunch of insects on its tail.
And beautiful light from below.
Yeah, well, that's
Hmm.
part of the eutrophic deal.
Yeah. Do you ever
Real,
go up into Rodman Slough?
yeah, this picture is in Robin Slough.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'd go there. I haven't been there in a year at least, but I do want to go there. Rodman Slough is one of the places where you're likely to see grebes. Another is south of Lakeport. Another is Anderson Marsh. We did have in Clear Lake Oak Keys about 11 grebe nests last spring, but none of them were successful, apparently. This is in Rodman Slough, and I just put a common mallard in here because I thought the light was good.
Yeah, and the position.
The position is kind of good. It's kind of interesting, but it's doing that because it's scared of me, and it jumped in.
Ah,
Yeah, acorn woodpecker, spray delivery to 3 babies,
hmm.
white crown night heron.
Hmm.
Oh no, black crown night.
I was gonna say it looked like
Yeah,
a juvenile.
that's
Yeah.
another one, and that's another one. Same thing. Uh, okay, bald eagle got thrown in here. Okay, belted kingfisher. Okay. I think this is a male because I think there'd be another band around here if it was female.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Bonaparte skull, and that the thing is, I see this head dot at all different stages. Sometimes it's just a dot. Ah, okay, that's a buffalo head. I think I kind of come back to the Bonaparte skulls. We got Bullock's Orioles in our yard. They actually go to the hummingbird feeder.
Beautiful.
California gull.
I rescued a bullocks up at Clear Lake once and took it to Lindsay, a baby that had fallen out of a tree and was no way, it was way too young.
California quail, cedar waxwing, common golden eyes. It's a Cooper's hawk. I always try to get hawks other than red tail hawks, and I usually find out that they're just red tail hawks. That's a Cooper's hawk. Yeah, domestic goose, eared grebe. Oh yeah, mating European collared doves.
Wow, nice catch.
Forster's tern. Yeah, these are some of the great blue heron juveniles over in the Keys. Don't usually get such a clear shot of them. I got lucky there. It's always branches and stuff. Another great egret, green heron.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, he's focused. Lesser scalps.
Wow.
Mallard coming in for a landing. Flicker, northern flicker. This guy, supposedly they're hard to get pictures of. They're kind of flighty, but this one was focused on some stuff. There was a down tree, which apparently had some stuff it wanted to eat in it. Northern mockingbird, northern shoveler.
The tail is so interesting. So,
What?
the
Oh yeah,
tail,
yeah,
so,
yeah,
so
yeah,
tattered.
yeah. That is something. It's a mockingbird.
Yeah.
Northern shoveler. There's another Bonaparte skull. That guy that you saw with just the dot before.
Yeah.
There's our rapidly expanding mute swan population. That's another Bonaparte skull, this time all black in the head.
Mhm.
Yeah, just this was, I guess, about the only babies. This and another Canada goose family are the only babies I've seen this spring. This was a couple of weeks ago.
So
Yeah, huh?
Ed, I just wanted to interrupt you for a second and just ask people to pay attention to the product of high-end prime lenses and a prime body at f/16. Every one of the images you're looking at is tack sharp, no fringing, no blurring. It is the product of high-end photography.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Yeah, I did shell out the bucks and but I should say that the F-16 applied to my macro stuff, but not to these birds. You know, that could be anywhere between F4 and F8 generally for these.
aha.
Maybe more if I'm trying to get multiple birds, maybe tighter.
I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that it's very hard uh, to scrimp on prime equipment if you're going after this kind of photography.
Yeah. This picture, since I'm kayaking, I had my 600 millimeter f4 lens, but I also knew that I had seen this before and I wanted to get in closer than I could with that. I actually did buy another, I did bring another lens with me, which actually is not a very expensive lens at all. Just so I put it on just so I could get in closer for this shot. You know, these guys, when I went kayaking on the East Coast, there were swans who were very, very aggressive. It was scary. But these guys just left. And I could see their eggs. There's 6 of them.
Hmm.
And it's the other Canada goose family I just saw. That's a red-shouldered hawk at Clear Lake State Park. I think that's the same guy. Spotted sandpiper in Clear Lake.
Oh, wow, what a classic.
Yeah, this is probably one that's using our birdhouses. Tree swallows. Interesting picture of a turkey vulture.
Screening.
Yeah, I like this one coming in for a landing. This was in Rodman Slough in the evening. If you
Yeah, it's
can be up
interesting the
there.
way his toes are pointed.
Yeah,
Looks like a
there
ballet
was
dancer.
there was a dead item there. I forget it was a fish or some other animal. So he was coming back. Okay, I guess that's the end of that group. Now I want to see what time it is. How do I do that? What time is it?
8:05.
8:05. Okay, we can do a little more nature. There's not much in this directory, but I did go to the Salton Sea for the first time January of last year. And I've been back twice since, and I want to go again. The 2 birds that were really easy to find there that are kind of hard to find other places are this, a kestrel. They're all over the place, especially near the southern end of the Salton Sea. There's a wildlife refuge called the Sunny Bono Wildlife Refuge. But I saw this guy not in that refuge, but it's a nice place to go there. Kestrels all over the place. And also I heard that there's 70% of all the burrowing owls in California are in the southern Salton Sea area.
Wow.
And in May and June, if you go, you'll probably see them with babies.
Oh, boy.
But it'll be hot. I've gone in January and April, but I want to go in May or June, even though it'll be hot.
Mhm.
Salton Sea. Yeah, I do have a bunch of other birds that are not from Clear Lake. Let's see.
I like your album title, Birds Not Clear Lake.
Yeah. I could maybe see him. Okay, not too many. Okay. Yeah, this was at Berkeley Aquatic Park.
Spectacular lighting.
It is nice. And you know, the lighting was real nice. It was sunset, and then I went and got my camera, and then the shadow had come. So this is I thought, oh no, the shadow's here, but it still looks pretty good. I just had to, you know, let more light in.
Yeah.
And this is at Albany Bulb.
Wow.
Probably kind of heavily cropped, so it's not so
That's
sharp.
so cool. That he's holding
Yeah,
it smack in the
you know
middle.
that mud flat at the end of it. Sometimes birds are hunting.
Yeah.
On this, actually, David Edgar knows about this. These are the kites that were nesting in Kensington 3, 4, 5 years ago. I didn't see a kite the last 3 years until I did see one recently in Kensington. So yeah, he's got a rodent. Delivering the rodent. This is a juvenile whitetail kite, and
Wow,
I just
beautiful.
think it's a beautiful bird.
Sure is.
That's one of, a few months old.
Lovely.
Okay. Well, one other sort of out of the area species I really like is the elephant seals, and I think the best place to see them is Piedras Blancas down near San Simeon.
By far.
This series was one of the first things I submitted to Berkeley Camera Club, and I did well. It's birthing, and if you go in January, you
Oh
see the
my.
births.
Oh
So
my.
back then, this was a cheapo lens, so I wanted to go back. That's a birthing about 12 years ago. After the birth, the seagulls get it. So I wanted to go back, and I have gone back a couple times. This is the scene of the place. They have this boardwalk for the visitors put out by the Friends of the Elephant Seal.
And it's low. The cliffs are low, so you can get close to them.
Yeah, so you can get close. Actually, 12, 14 years ago, I don't think they really had signs up further down the coast that said you couldn't go there, and I did walk among them.
Wow.
But you're really not supposed to do that anymore. So I went back. This is a newer picture. I don't know with my more expensive stuff, but I don't know if it really looks all that much better because the lighting wasn't so great. This is actually Mama's neighbor kicking up the sand at her. So it's coming out. And then I think I have, did
Oh,
my other video come through pretty well, by the way?
yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
That's quite striking to see the actual birthing. How long did it take to come out from when you first
Well, we're going to
saw it?
see.
Okay. Actually, this one's a little halting. Oh, it's fast though. Really fast.
Of course, it took a little while before that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Did you see it take the membrane off the face?
No, I think it just sort of gets broken in the course of events, and nobody really, and then the seagulls come and get it. Yeah, it's another birth. This one I
Jeez.
think was from years ago also. This is another series I had. That's not very good. Yeah. Just because they're cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a male and he's got his thing out there.
Hmm.
It does look like he's being pretty affectionate.
Mm-hmm. With the
Got
nice
his bent
hug.
over the couple of males fighting. So yeah, the best time to see the birthing is February, as January, and the best time to see mating or fighting is probably February. Yeah, this is a little too image sequence that I thought was funny. The female elephant seal has two nipples. There's one here and another one that this guy's using down here. So this seagull's watching, and then he seems to be trying
Oh,
to get this guy switched to the upper nipple, but here's the nipple, and here's a nipple. There's no nipple there, but he seems to be trying to get the idea of it. Didn't work.
It's an unusual shot.
yes.
Just, yeah, let's see. We did all this. Yeah, well, the bird feeder shots. You do often see mamas feeding their young, even though the young can pick up our bird seed out of the bird feeder just as well, but the parent feeds them. And of course, with the bird feeder, you can get good close-up shots. Oh, this is not a bird feeder, but a bird house. And the chestnut-backed chickadee bringing in food for the young
What amazing.
and carrying out the poop.
Ah,
Black-headed grosbeak at our feeder here in Clear Lake. Brewer's blackbird. This is just because I can get such good pictures of them. Brown-headed cowbird, chestnut-backed chickadee. Okay. I think basically I did make it through all my nature stuff. Okay.
fabulous.
Okay. So if I go up here to my talk directory, you see there's another half. Do we take a break or not?
No, no
I
breaks.
guess I'm good. I'm good. Okay. All
If
right.
you need a
Totally
break,
shifting gear
go
here.
ahead, but we
Okay.
don't.
So this is kind of contrived because I didn't know if I could talk for 2 hours either on nature or sports.
Well, this just shows your diversity.
Actually, let me go back a minute because there was some nature stuff I didn't show. I do want to show, yeah, there's a whole bunch of macro stuff I didn't show. I do want to show, well, I'm going to show this even though I kind of feel like I blew this, but this is
Oh,
a wasp which makes a burrow and lays eggs in it. It goes, finds a spider, paralyzes the spider, and drags it back to the burrow.
jeez.
And so that the young have something to eat. And the
Jeez.
spider isn't dead yet. It's just paralyzed, so it stays fresh.
Oh my.
Now, the thing about these
Person.
pictures, I don't think they're as good as my other macro pictures. And the reason was the new Canon macro RF lens has this spherical aberration control. And I really don't like it set to anything but neutral, the normal thing. It's trying to, correct the way that things get unsharp due to the focus from the outside of the lens not being the same as the focus from the inside of the lens. So it kind of gives an overall softer look to it, but can make things sharper out of focus, I think. But I just accidentally set it to something other than 0. And since I've done these and didn't like the pictures, I've turned the lock switch on. And if anybody ever knows anything, I've looked on the internet, nobody can tell me anything about how to use that in a useful way. So I just keep it locked to 0. But it was a good nature scene. Let's see, I also had yeah, this one in particular. This I wanted to show.
Mm.
It's called a house spider. I watched this spider for weeks. This is shortly after she laid one of her egg sacs and wrapped it up. I had 30 feet of USB cable from my computer going out the window and under the deck outside with a camera out there. So I took
30.
a picture. I took a picture of her like 6 minutes for months until she disappeared.
Wow. So
And
it's
then,
set up
but
for automatic, of course.
yeah, so that was automatic. But the pictures I've shown so far are ones I took by hand because the others are not, they're good for kind of keeping track of what's going on, but they're not sharp.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
So yeah, after she had these 3, and then I saw her lay the 4th one, she brought it over to put near the others. These are, okay, so here's what happened was I have this thing automatically taking a picture every 6 minutes. She's laying an egg sac, which unfortunately is not in focus because I didn't know where she was going to be. But you can see this stuff coming out is either the eggs or the sort of sac that they're going to be in. It's almost like watching a sun form, I think. It comes out.
Hmm.
And then she spends like 40 minutes wrapping it up.
Wow.
By the time I noticed what was going on, those other pictures I hadn't noticed yet, though I went out there with my camera to take these videos and those other pictures. She just did this for like 40 minutes.
Wow. It's so beautiful when you can see the eggs inside the diaphanous sac too,
And you
before
can
it
see,
solidifies.
especially from the light from this angle, you can really see the multiple strands of silk coming out.
Yeah, coming right out of her gland. Striking.
It's another video that you might think this is dirt on my sensor or something, or no, apparently she has a translucent membrane outside and then the heart's beating inside.
Wow.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff going on here. Oh, that was funny because this is the camera I had below pointing straight up, taking the time lapse.
Uh,
And then after weeks, I got to clean that thing off. She dropped all that stuff on it, some poop, some dead animals.
yeah.
But I followed her for months, I think. And then one day she walked out of the field of view and didn't come back. I did a guided walk on Mount Diablo to see tarantulas. That's a picture of me and a tarantula. Yeah, that's our group. Yeah, because in about October, they come out, the males come out and look for mates. They can spend years in their burrow, and then when they're about 7 years old, they come out and look for mates and usually die after mating.
What, like the same day or same week or what?
Sometimes the female kills them.
Right.
No, I think they're likely to live on days or weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah, the inchworm sequence. I submitted this to the Berkeley Camera Club.
I
Basically,
remember
what
that
happened
one real
here,
well.
yeah, I saw this because I'm walking my dogs in the evening and couldn't figure out what it was because that's a spider web. There's the spider. I think that's an arabesque orb weaver down at the end of it. So I'm pretty sure it's his web, but no, they don't do eggs like that. So I just waited, I think about 18 days of walking my dogs right past there. This is just to show where the spider is compared to that. 18 days of walking past there. I see him hatching in the evening. I go up and get my
Oh,
camera. I tried to light it as best I could. I don't
beautiful.
really like the artifacts of some of the light. Like these two things are probably my flash. I did try putting one of those two flash things behind it and one in front, at least for some of the pictures. I brought a tripod down so I could have some lights held on that. And
Mhm.
uh, even though the tripod wasn't touching the web and wasn't touching the plants that the web was attached to, it was touching the plants that were touching plants that the web was attached to. So it disturbed things, which took the tension off of it. So I couldn't really use it too well. And I thought, oh, the next morning, maybe I'll come down and try to get better stuff. But then the next morning, they were all gone,
Ah,
disappeared. They hatched that afternoon and were totally unfindable by me by the next morning.
quite a pearl necklace.
Yeah, it does look like that. Hmm. A guy who's pretty knowledgeable, actually, the guy that led that tarantula hike, Tony Iwani, sent this to the curator of the Los Angeles Museum of Natural History, I guess the expert on newts, and he couldn't figure out what was going on here. I think he must have had some algae growing, or it looks like a newt wearing a condom to me.
Yeah. Or at least a body stocking.
Yeah, body stocking, I guess. California newt. So yeah, they have individual eggs inside of this egg ball. These guys are just starting to form. They're about to come out. That is oops. That, why did it do that? I don't know why it's doing that. That's a larval newt. It is a California newt. It looks a lot different, but it's,
Yeah. Hmm. Eyes are so interesting. The stripe.
yeah. And then that's their mating process. External fertilization. I mean, the male puts out sperm and the female has to take it in kind of later. Do I want to show any of these? I do put out sheets with ultraviolet light sometimes. I actually did it the last couple of days and got enormous amounts of small dead things because they died. I like to count. You can have a sheet where you can count how many threads or how many weaves per millimeter or whatever there are, so you know how big something is. Got a lace wing and something in the ant wasp area.
Beautiful green iridescence. I bought some painted lady larvae. Gave me a chance to watch them develop. Oh, wow.
Painted lady. Beckers. Yeah, another thing about artificial light is you can, if the background's further away, it's not going to get much light. So you got a nice dark background. I really like that.
Yeah.
Are you on a tripod for all of these?
No, not on a tripod for any of them.
Uh-huh.
The flash freezes things nicely. Yeah, that's the pipevine swallowtail laying eggs at the Tilden Botanic Garden.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think I'll go on to sports. Let's go on to sports.
You're like me. When I go to the botanical garden, it's for the fauna, not the flora.
Yeah, I do tend to look for the insects, even at the UC Botanic Garden.
Yeah, insect and snakes and lizards and hummingbirds.
So way back, okay, way back about 2003, living in Middletown in Lake County, a friend and I we were both kind of retired and we're just doing all kinds of weird creative stuff. And he wanted to be a high school sports writer. So I did photography for it. And we published things in the Middletown Times-Star. And then later I did things for Lake County News. Lake County's Middletown Times-Star had a circulation of maybe 1,500, but they would pay us a little bit. And their banner said they were the oldest continuously published weekly in Northern California. Going back to the 1880s or so, and it did die when Martha Webster died. She did volunteer work there and kept it all going. But anyway, so we started going to Middletown High School football. This is actually a shot taken with the Sony Handycam video camera, and I just grabbed the screenshot out of it.
Huh.
And actually, I take it back. This is one of those. This one is after I got my Canon Digital Rebel, my first digital SLR. So yeah, this one is probably a little better than this one, but even this was good enough for the Middletown Times-Star.
Uh-huh.
And Middletown has an interesting football program. The coach was a little unfriendly to us at first, but I'll talk more about that later because he really warmed up. This is 2007. By this time, I guess I had a Canon 40D. Still not very good pictures. So, okay. So we got into doing all this other fun stuff. There was this event called the Canocti Quarterback Challenge, although it was really for all kinds of NFL stars. And it was a ton of fun. And it was kind of a fundraiser because people pay money to ride in the golf carts with these superstars and just watch them golf. And the players are all really relaxed and friendly. So this is a 49ers running back, Roger Craig. And he's holding a picture that I printed out from the picture we took of him the previous year.
Oh, wow. You knew he was going to be there the second year, right?
Well, no, I didn't. Well, I guess I had a feeling. Actually, I think I printed this out and had him sign that too. If I could zoom in better, I show you that he has signed this picture. And I think he thinks the whole project is pretty funny. The whole thing was just a huge kick. And I really have the Middletown Times Star got us a pass to go there and do this stuff. And okay, these are kind of out of order because I wanted to show more of that other thing. But this is, I also got to pass the San Francisco Giants. So this is back in 2005 on the field. As a bunch of the players they had back then. Just thought I would do something a little off the beaten path. I don't remember who that is, but there's Barry Bonds right after he hit career homer number 708, or I think, let's say 705.
Wow.
Gosh, I think these are not in the order I wanted to show. But so this was about 2009. About this time, I'm starting to think I want to do more high school sports besides Lake County. So I found out about this thing called Max Preps, which is the nation's leading high school sports website. And this was taken with the Canon 5D. I thought it was kind of a decent picture. It said El Cerrito High School. When I sent in, the way you become I'm not the approved photographer, I'm just one of like 300 that they have around the country. They have you send sample photos and they decided whether you make it. So I think this might have been one of the sample photos I sent because I thought it's a good action shot, but it's just not sharp enough. And so I got a rejection that said your pictures aren't sharp enough and the colors are a little off. And then I decided, well, my Canon 5D Mark II doesn't focus quite well enough. Canon 1D Mark IV was the thing to get. So this was still before I was approved at Max Preps, but I was trying to build up my resume.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm using for this shot a flash, and I do like the look of the flash. Max Preps would reject this photo just because of the red eye right there.
You're kidding. I can't even see the
Well,
red
you
eye.
could, or you could go into Photoshop and do the fix red eye thing. But if their photo editor saw that, he'd say no good.
That's amazing.
So this picture, 2010 at Middletown in a playoff game, got me a lot of notoriety. People love this
beautiful.
picture.
Just
Even the Lake County Record B, which I wasn't writing for, pointed out what great it was, even though it was in the other paper. They printed it out and had everybody sign it. People in the street said, "Are you the guy that took that picture?" People just loved that thing.
So how
And
do you,
actually, Max Preps would probably reject it because it's not rich enough color and it's not sharp enough.
how do you get what's the atmospherics from? Is it
The
fog or
atmospherics
dust?
is from sweat evaporating. It was just
You're kidding.
it was just at that temperature and cold, and they were just
body heat.
body heat coming off,
Wow.
and it was real muddy, as you can see. So people like that.
Oh yeah.
And so now we're back at the quarterback challenge, Joe Montana. The thing was, they did one of the years we were there. They did the whole event, and then my friend Dan got basically Joe Montana and his personal manager challenged Dwight Clark and the golf course manager to 9 holes. And so after everybody left, I guess this wasn't then, but after everybody left, we hung around with him. I was riding around in Joe Montana's golf cart. This is one, I guess, the only picture here Well, there was that other picture of me too, but this is a picture my friend took of me with Ken Stabler. So here, Dwight Clark is signing autographs. He was very friendly, and he's signing autographs for this little kid and having a good time with the beer and everything. This is the kid's back, gotten all these people to sign it. So when Dwight Clark died, I made a Facebook post saying how nice he was at these events and signing all these autographs, and he was real friendly and everything. And then this woman posted, that was my kid, and he's now the quarterback at Clear Lake. So this is the same kid. This is
Oh, wow.
12 years ago, or 12 years before the other picture, more than that.
That's
ago.
amazing that you were able to make that connection.
And then this,
Amazing.
and he actually set the career yardage record for Lake County,
Wow.
passing yardage record.
Classic photo, the
So
pose.
yeah, that was a neat little story. Okay, we saw that. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So then I think it's sort of the last picture this. So
Jeez.
then I had my Canon 1D Mark IV, and I finally got a 300 millimeter f2.8 lens. And that's what really you need, because that's kind of what the sort of performance they're looking for to approve you as a photographer. So I got that, and this is for my first game. This is an actual in-game shot.
Jeez.
This was my very first game back in December 2010 at Salesian High School. It was the North Coast section for a particular division semifinal championship game.
Was he catching it or throwing it?
He's catching it. Oops,
Wow.
front picture. Yeah, he's catching it. So these are pictures I marked these as the pictures I sent on my Try-2, but there's red eye there. I don't think you would approve that. So at least I think I was only supposed to send 5 pictures, so I sent probably 5 out of these. This is a place where you think you're going to get a good shot of a catch, maybe, but then they don't actually catch it. But I still take the picture.
Yeah, the hoverball is cool.
And it's weird because, shooting in the daytime is a lot easier than shooting at nighttime. So I don't know how they could really approve you for nighttime on the basis of daytime shots. But I had, these are some nighttime shots too. So these are the ones I sent in, and Max Preps approved me. So I became a Max Preps photographer. Now, as it happened, Middletown was in the North Coast Section Championship game. But since I was brand new, I didn't get assigned to that one. Normally, you can go to whatever game you want, but when they get down to section championships, they assign them. So I wasn't really had a high enough status yet. Okay, so these aren't great pictures, but these are pictures of that championship game that I was not assigned to, but I was still shooting for Lake County News. And it's the championship game in December 2010 for the North Coast section. Tough defensive struggle. Middletown was definitely an underdog. Here we are, 7-7 in the third quarter. This is Coach Fultmer, who was by this time getting pretty friendly. And I really, really like the guy. And I'll talk more about him a little later. Middletown's driving for another touchdown, and then they went up 21-7 with 8:17 left in the game. And it was a defensive struggle, so I really thought they were going to win this thing. But here's Salesian coming back, and it goes into overtime. And Faulkner said he could just see in everybody's eyes that they weren't going to do too well. And they lose, and here's one of my numerous failed attempts to get the Gatorade dunk on Chad Nightingale, coach of Salesian, after they came back and won the game. And here's a panorama I took of the highly disappointed, broken-hearted Middletown team.
No joy in Mudville.
And the joy in Salesian as they came back and won it. But just look at these guys.
Yeah.
Could not believe how it slipped away.
Wow.
Just look at those faces. Well, I guess there was no redemption. There's no redemption for these guys. There's Coach Fultmer, and this is the guy who's going to take over next year, but I'll tell you more about that. This is Moke Simon, who's was a Lake County supervisor, and he's chair of the Pomo Indians in Middletown, and he is a lineman coach on the Middletown football team. Okay, so here's a little directory called Redemption, because 7 years later, again, it's Middletown versus Salesian in the North Coast Section Championship game. This time I am the official photographer for Max Preps. Middletown takes the lead. The quarterback, his name was Pike, was doing real well. He's not very big, doesn't throw very hard, but he's making good decisions and throwing real accurately. And then he got hurt.
Wow.
The backup quarterback was terrible. And then brilliant move, they call this halfback pass, where they pitch the ball to the halfback and everybody thinks he's going to run. And then he throws the ball. And he actually made a good pass, and they got another touchdown that way. So they did win the game. And here's Coach Fultmer and some of the key players. So I felt really good about this. I felt really good about this game, because I know Fultmer was really upset about the first one.
Wow.
So Middletown gets the win. There's the quarterback Pike. Coach Fultmer retired last fall after 40 years at Middletown as the leading winning coach, active coach among all California high school football coaches, and number 9 all time. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a bunch of different sports, but I have a few directories called Good Day, because it was just a day that I liked. I don't really go out of my way to try to see the famous superstars, but this one is Najee Harris. They have a game between Antioch and Pittsburgh every year called the Little Big Game. It's one of the premier rivalry games, and this guy, Najee Harris, was a NFL first-round draft choice and a key running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers the last few years. This is back in 2016.
Oh, great shot.
Jumping, he didn't quite make the end zone, but it was a great opportunity. All these photographers are back along the back of the end zone.
Oh my. Wow.
Didn't quite make the end zone though.
Oh,
But yeah, the Little Big Game, something they're playing for Pittsburgh, despite Najee Harris. That's Najee Harris. Pittsburgh actually won it. And this guy was the game of the week. Oh yeah, it was a big deal with these cameras on cables above the field. I don't even know who's broadcasting it. But it was a big deal. Lots of people, lots of photographers. Well, it's out of order, but I might as well. So I was talking about Fultmer and his retirement. Last November, he coached his last game. This is the team, not one of his better teams in a way. He had the star wide receiver, who he said was the best athlete he ever had. Well, actually, his quarterback, this guy, broke his foot in the first game of the season.
oh no.
They didn't know what to do. They had this really good wide receiver who's the best athlete on the team. That's this guy. And so they moved him to quarterback. Didn't really want to have to do that, but they didn't have any other good options. And then he broke his hand in the second game of the
Oh,
season. So then they're only 4-5 going into the last game of the season. When Fultmer was doing his last game, and these two guys both came back from their injuries to play for the first time since early in the season. They're only 4-5, and they're playing a 4-5 team. That's the coaching staff, Fultmer here, with these guys who've been together a long, long time. And this guy's going to take over next year. This guy is Jack Barker, who is a Middletown legend. He has been the ball boy for Middletown sports events and been to just about every sports events they have for about 60 years.
wow.
Still doing it. That's him walking on the field. You can't quite read this. I was trying to get it so you could read it, but it says, well, it says home of the Mustangs there. It says Bill Fultmer Field or something. Field of Bill Fultmer. They named the field after him.
Are you shooting through glass? Is that why you get those yellow?
This is the scoreboard. No, I'm not shooting through glass. That's actually the scoreboard. You can actually, I guess it's so bright you can see it through the goal post line.
Exactly, because it's in front of the
Yeah,
goalpost.
so yeah, well, it's actually not,
strange.
but that's the way it came through. Home of the
Huh.
Mustangs, it's Bill Fulmer Field, named the field after him. That's him and the new coach who's been an assistant there for like 15 years. This guy's puppy played with my puppy like 18 years ago, and we've been a little bit of friends ever since. I'm glad he got the job. So this is the wide receiver who was out since game 2 and had to be quarterback in that game, making a catch, and Middletown just stomped him. The going away game was, I think, 45-0 or something. And they were both 4-5, but getting those two guys back,
It's like shooting ballet.
Brandon Coslow coming back, his mom has 3 kids on the football team next year, and she's now considered the official photographer of the team because she's been doing it.
Huh.
So I just wanted to show. And then Faulkner now, he grabs me when he wants a picture, and this is Coach Whopper, who's also a Lake County legend. So Faulkner started, like I said, 23 years ago, I started doing photography. I mean, he was a little cold at first, and then last 10 years, whenever he sees me, he shakes my hand and says how good it is that I'm there. And then this year, he hugs me. He comes over and gives me a hug. And that last game was just such an indescribable love fest all the way around that I just, I know it could only happen in a small town, maybe. And for the guy who retires with the most wins of any active coach. I do like football better than anything else. So that's why a lot of these things I've marked as good days. I don't know where there's a spider. Okay, so this day I marked as a good day because I'm thinking, do I want to go to Hercules High School or do I want to go to Napa? And I wound up being able to do both. There was a spate of violence about 2019 with fights in the fans, among the fans in the stands. I thought I'd selected out just a few of these, but this is pretty much my whole Max Press gallery from this game. The thing was, since they did it earlier, at least in certain East Bay areas, that the lighting was really good. So I'm able to shoot just natural light, and the Hercules field doesn't have shadows on it. So I'm able to, just get that really nice light.
And the eyes.
Yeah. Usually it just doesn't look this good. I think pictures look better back when I was flashing. About 2016 or so, pretty much everybody stopped using flash because probably I stopped about then. Other people probably stopped before that because the cameras are getting better at high ISO. So the thing is, for a night football and also for indoor basketball, pretty much everybody's going to shoot right around 1/1000 f2.8 and whatever ISO you need. And it's usually 6400 or 8000. So it's pretty high ISO. I don't like the look of it nearly as much as the old flash pictures, except for these, because it's daytime. And not only is it daytime, but it's late afternoon. So this game was a blowout with Kennedy beating Hercules. And it was such a blowout that I knew they were going to go to a running clock, which makes the game go faster in the second half. Not much was going to happen.
Oh, he's hovering.
And the game started early. So I knew I had time to also go to Napa. And it's the only time I've been there. And it's my idea of what high school football should be. They've got this big stadium. I think it's called the Napa Coliseum. And they've got do it up big with the marching band in uniform. El Cerrito doesn't even use their uniforms anymore. And, good lighting in the thing. So for me to be able to do both of those games in good conditions and games I liked, and this game was really tight. So that was a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
So I think that's about it for football. Even though that's my favorite sport because I love being outdoors. I love being able to move around. And those Middletown nights in the fall, being outside, it's just freaking fantastic. But anywhere, really, outside in the fall in the evening, the ambiance usually is very friendly. It takes a lot of people to put a football game on. The people at the snack bar and the people taking the tickets and the people doing the chains to measure for first downs. Everybody is just wonderfully friendly. Usually the players are usually polite. This is the second
Wow.
event I did for Max Preps back in, I think, February 2011. This was back before people shot without a flash. And Max Preps wanted you to have at least two off-camera flashes.
Mm.
So it needs a real nice light, but it's a remote triggered flash. I had two of them, and I do think it looks really good. And
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore, and I didn't like having to do it. It's a lot of hassle. But these are all from that first game, and I do think that light's really good. But like I had the load flash, and it puts a shadow
Yeah.
on the back. Okay, so shifting ahead now to some other basketball. I guess the most famous player I shot in high school is Ivan Rabb, who played for Bishop O'Dowd. Then he played 1 year for Cal Berkeley, and then he was an early second-round pick of the Boston Celtics. I always thought he didn't seem to play with much fire, and he didn't really make it in the NBA very well. But that's him in Berkeley playing for Bishop O'Dowd. This guy, I followed his career more than anybody. It's Aiden Mahaney from Camp Lindo. He was a star in high school. Then he was a star as a freshman at St. Mary's 2 years ago. Didn't really progress so much a year ago in his sophomore year. And then he transferred to University of Connecticut, the defending national champions. And then his playing time plummeted. It seems like things are kind of going downhill for him. Coach Montgomery, who's an analyst on TV, said he thought he had NBA material, but that was 2 years ago. It doesn't look that way at all. But this is in his Campo Lindo days. He did buy, or his family bought a bunch of my pictures. And so I'm thinking about how tough it is to make it in the NBA and how competitive it is in college and how disappointing it is for most people who wanted to go to the NBA. And then you look back and just this sheer joy of the high school days.
Yeah. Wow.
These guys were just having such a great time and they did so well. Aiden Mahaney, as a freshman, was the most valuable player of the state championship game.
Wow.
So he was really something. And I'm still following him. I kind of empathize with him. But and now he's transferring again. He's leaving UConn because he didn't get much playing time. Don't know where he's going to be. Oh, and then this is that same guy who caught that guy who was moved from wide receiver to quarterback and then this guy broke his hand. And then he's a basketball star. And Middletown had a nice little run in the basketball playoffs. So I was getting into that. It was nice to go to games 3 in a row. They had home games in the playoffs.
Wow. What amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
poses.
he stuffs them. He tends to steal the ball and then drive and stuff. So it happens. It was happening a time or two a game.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so basically, I'm just going to go through some different sports here. Baseball, did some championship games, and then there's these celebrations. I thought that was pretty cool. Typical baseball shot. It's easy to get. Could do the whole delivery,
Yeah, the classic pitch.
and I
Oh,
like that
what
one
a
'cause-
timing.
yeah. And of course, you want to get some fielding shots. It's easy to say if there's a base dealer on first base, you can pretty much guess there are going to be some throws over there. So that's not too hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we've seen that. I'll go back to a little bit of football. I do go out on the field for corn flips a lot of the time, and I usually don't bring a separate lens for it. I usually go to football with the 400 millimeter f2.8 lens and with a 70 to 200. It's easier to get the action with a 70 to 200 because it's hard to keep things in frame with a 400, but Max Preps wants those tight, sharp shots, so I use some of both. This was actually the 8 to 15 millimeter lens, and if you have that wide a lens and you hold it up high, it looks like you're way above everybody. So this was actually a little bit better view. And this is actually the same lens set at 8 millimeters, which gets you 180 degrees pretty much. So this is me. This is me here with a remote, and the camera is sitting on its back, flat on the ground. And there's the coin toss. And that basically each team sends out 4 captains, and they meet at midfield.
Very cool concept.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool concept. I stole the idea from another Max Preps photographer. And then, I got all these crappy pictures trying to get Gatorade dunks on the winning coach, and I think I was unlucky, and maybe I don't know where to get. And then finally this year, that's actually an El Cerrito celebration, but Moreau Catholic won their division, their division's North Coast Section Championship. And I got a whole series of these. I think from the time I saw what was going on to the time I took the first picture in the series was maybe a second, because I had it all set up for celebration pictures. And boom. So finally I got
Wow.
the near perfect Gatorade dunking shot.
Yes.
Finally, after so many crappy ones.
What's funny is he's just so calm and
Yeah. And the funny thing
Unexpected.
is, you might think that's because he hadn't realized what happened yet, but he just
Right.
stayed that way.
oh.
Okay, so you see basketball, so you see that and that. Okay, new sport, just not this school year, but last school year is girls flag football.
Hmm.
Instead of tackling, you grab these ribbons off. Either one, they have 2. You grab either one, and then that stops the play.
Hmm.
Games are 4 8-minute quarters, and I was doing situations where they set up 3 games at the same location with 3 teams, and then they, each team plays each other, and they get started just 1 hour apart. They go really fast,
Hmm.
and it was late afternoon, so the light's good. There's a flag getting yanked. You're not allowed to. One of the rules is you cannot guard your flag with your hand.
Uh-huh. That's
That was
wonderful.
at St. Mary's High School. That was at St. Mary's High School. Yeah. Okay. So that's another sport. Um, yeah, I didn't put a whole lot of soccer in here. Soccer is really one of my favorite things to do, because it's outside. This is just to show that at the end of games, there's lately been more proliferation of parents coming on the field, because I'm usually out in front trying to get this team picture of the championship team, and I guess I did, but then I moved around to get this picture just to show what it was like. She got a goal, so she's getting congratulated.
Oh.
Okay, I'll go back if you like. Yeah, this was at in Ross, private school in Ross, Marin County. Berkeley High beat Mighty De La Salle for the championship a few years back. So that's the Berkeley goalie. That's Berkeley versus De La Salle in that game.
Wow. Top of the kick.
I'm gonna get into more of my Max Preps pet peeves if I have time in a little bit, but this is the sort of thing I would not submit to Max Preps, because the guy who's facing you is not quite in focus, and these guys, you can't see their back. But if it's like the only goal in a 1-0 game, I wish they'd have a little flexibility and let me put it in there, especially if I know I've got better pictures of it than anybody else. And then the other thing is, I got the absolute perfect picture of somebody scoring a goal. I was behind, off to the side of the net, but behind it, and there weren't people in my way. And then Max Preps wants me to crop tight, so I crop tight, and then I wind up just with a picture of a guy kicking a ball, so you don't even know what's going on.
Oh.
So this, but so the Berkeley De La Salle game went into overtime, and then penalty kicks. So once there's penalty kicks, you're going to get a lot of opportunities for diving goalies stopping the ball.
Yeah.
This was this year, De La Salle in a semifinal semifinal of North Coast section. That was at the goal mouth, but it wasn't a goal. All right, I have tons of soccer pictures, but we'll leave that there. What time is it now?
It is almost 9 o'clock.
Almost 9 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I better do track. I better show you some track.
Yeah, I saw on your cover there some high
Yeah,
bar.
for like
Pole
8 years in a
vaulting.
row. Well, maybe more, probably 9 or 10 years in a row. I did North Coast section championships at UC Berkeley, various things.
The moment of pass.
Yeah, and then they actually moved
Oh,
it.
wow.
But it was a kind of fun for me to go there because I used to go to track meets there with my dad long, long ago.
Did he
College
make
track.
it over? Did this guy make it?
I don't remember.
Uh-huh. He sure is close. Wow. Beautiful.
Okay. Oh yeah, this was
Oh.
what I'd gone to the state track finals in Buchanan High School in Clovis near Fresno. It's a little tough because they start like 3 p.m., so it's not too hot for the runners. In fact, the running doesn't start till it gets dark. And then it's hard to do things, but this is the starter gun. And then I did this
Wow.
composite. Next, perhaps I won't take composites, but I did this composite. Okay, if it's really almost 9, I'll just close with my pet peeves. I think I mentioned some things about, I think Max Preps is picky about, but this isn't that great a picture because the guy's obscured kicker. But I was at Skyline High School in Oakland. It's got the worst lights. I was really having a hard time. And then at halftime, this fog layer comes in. And I knew there's just no way I was going to get any Max Preps pictures. So I was just trying to be creative. But I can't do stuff like this for Max Preps. But this won prizes with the N4C.
Uh-huh.
I called it Giraffes in the Mist. So I think that cute title helped it win. And Max Preps wouldn't take this. It's not very sharp. It's not much detail.
Not zebras?
I call it Zebras in the Mist, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But no, they wouldn't take that. This is another picture they actually deleted out of my gallery because it shows backs, but it was during protests, the Kaepernick era protests, and the El Cerrito High School team was
Wow.
kneeling down. I caught them all kneeling with the flag during the national anthem and the other team not kneeling. So I thought that was kind of cool, but nope, Max Preps won't take that. No flexibility. Max Preps kicked this one out because I think it's a
Gee.
great picture. It's Berkeley High, or at Berkeley anyway, of girls field hockey. And the light I thought was really nice, but I was trying to it was a little warm glow from the sunset, but they said, no, we want the lights to be all consistent throughout the gallery. So I had to adjust it to be like the light earlier in the day.
Interesting.
But anyway, that's just my pet peeve. So if it's time for me to stop, I will.
Well,
Sure.
I'm happy to see more, and
Well,
anybody can leave anytime they want. So
okay. Yeah, these are just a couple of pictures I thought were good here. This was back in the flash era, which I really think things look better then. We actually put a flash unit mounted on a monopod. Everybody shoots with a monopod because the camera's with the lens is heavy. Mount the flash 1.5 to 2 feet below the camera so that you get less red eye. And I think back in that era when we were flashing, things did look better than shooting at ISO 6400 or 8000 now. That's with no flash, though.
Wow.
So there was this girl at Berkeley High School field hockey who didn't have a foot.
Jeez.
I took a couple of pictures of that. I
And
never
that's so
got her
funny
name.
that she has a shin guard, or is that part? No,
Well,
that's
maybe it's still how
prosthesis.
pulled it. Yeah. It's still
Yeah.
pulled it.
Yeah, just strange looking.
Track swimming. There was this one swimming event when there's a butterfly.
Jeez.
I like that the encouragement from these guys shouting at them. North Coast section swimming is pretty tough, and this was the championships. Butterfly
Wow.
And these 3 times all beat the state high school record. The top 3 guys all beat the state high
Jeez.
school record. Somebody told me it's because they let him take 3 dolphin kicks off the turns instead of 2.
Hmm.
So it really shouldn't have been allowed, but I don't know.
Oh,
I thought it was pretty impressive. I did do diving a few times.
whoa. Beautiful. Beautiful
These
position.
pictures don't sell very well. This guy here won 2 years in a row, I think.
Beautiful.
I think the top 10 go on to the state finals, but I've never gone to that. Track swimming, water polo, wrestling. The light in the afternoon,
Oh
really
my.
good.
And
This is pretty typical shot, but
But the expression is precious.
huh?
The expression on his face
Yeah.
is exceptional. With his cheeks
It's very
puffed out.
traditional to throw the winning coach in the pool after the end of the championship game.
Uh-huh.
I like this one because he's so centered with all the guys around him.
And he's so good spirited.
Yeah, he knew it was going to happen. They know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a typical shot. This is just to show how I think it's really icky. Once the night comes, the glare on the reflection of the artificial lights can be really bad. I hate it.
But the shot is beautiful. I love the sparkle, but it's more,
Okay.
like you say,
No,
more
I don't.
artistic.
Yeah, you get tired of it when you see a lot of them, I think.
Ah,
Yeah, and then the goalie shots. Yeah, the girls jump in together to start the game. And so most of the shots are either rearing up to fire it or goalie shots. Albany had North Coast Section Wrestling Championships, so I went to that. The lighting is really bad. I submitted that to Berkeley Camera Club Monochrome. Derived that. This stuff, I couldn't really shoot the fast action because I really had to slow the shutter down because the lights were just so bad. If I shot at ISO 8000, I'd have to go to like 1/200 maybe,
uh-huh.
because it's pretty slow for fast action. So it's mostly more the more static poses that he went for.
That was a strange looking uniform.
You break in, but I'm gonna have to sign off. Thanks so much.
Okay, I think I'm done.
Great,
I think
great
it's
work.
good to end here.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, these are spectacular, Ed, really.
Okay.
It's so nice to have somebody so professional, have been a member of our club.
If you say so. Okay, I'm going to stop the share. Okay.